Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Syncast. I'm Madeline, the host and Synup's content and community manager. Today, I'm talking with Amy Aitman about all things content, all things authenticity. Amy, why don't you tell everybody a little about yourself and how you got into the space?
Thanks, Madeline. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for reaching out. It's really exciting for me. And this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So I can't wait to get started. Currently, I am COO of Venture Forth Media. We build niche content sites. We build brands. We build we try hard to build authentic, great content for niche communities. So people like really obsessed in a niche, or they need information, or that kind of thing. So I've been there for about 7 years off and on. Started off as a writer slash editor slash growth manager slash managing editor, and worked my way up as we scaled our content production, scaled our content, and started really getting into building sites from scratch. I started in this industry as a freelance writer after not being hireable in 2008 that recession. Finished university, no one would hire me. My mentors were getting laid off, and I was like, what am I going to do? I really thought I was going to have a future in corporate communications and professional writing career. And my husband actually said, just try to get some freelance writing clients. And I was like, okay. I figured it's easier to get one client to give me one project. If I could start doing that, then I'd be set. And started from there. And it didn't take long for me to really realize that, I love writing. I love the process of writing, but for me, writing is very slow. And I just really love the bigger picture of content strategy, content marketing, and how powerful that is. And I'm just a complete content nerd, all types of content. So it was a really good fit. And I just kept working, learning, still learning so much. Things have changed in the last 18 months. In the last 3 months, things have changed online. So it's a really exciting, fun world to be in. And that's my story.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast here today. As a content marketer, I love talking about all this kind of stuff. So right up my alley. I'd love to just start off with a little conversation about like how you define authentic content and how you make sure that it's incorporated into the content strategy of your clients, and how to make sure that communications are authentic going forward when you work with someone.
That's a really good question, because I feel like there's this word authentic has been used so so much before. And it was really kind of a hot topic a few years ago, where it's like, we're going to build authentic content. And I feel like just like the barrier for what quality content is, authentic content means something different to every person. And it means something different for a brand or for an individual. So it means it's very subjective, but I would say authenticity really for me means like truthfulness and genuineness, and bringing that, like being able to be transparent in the ways that you need to be with content. And I think that it's, like I said, it's different for a TikTok influencer who's gonna share, maybe like really share their lives, versus like a brand who, but a brand still needs to think about what being honest and being genuine means for their brand. So that's how I kind of like to define authentic content. And also, I really like to think about who is delivering the content. So even with brands, or even with like large scale content marketing strategies, I think Google for sure cares a lot about the author of the content now, more than they ever have. And they are finding new ways to showcase authors, to showcase individuals. And to me, like, who is delivering the content is just as important as the published piece of content. And I think that that's where we're going with content. So it's been something in my company we've worked on for a long time. So to build authentic content always starts with who's delivering it. Is it a bona fide expert? That's something that, like, it's a big, big, deep passion of mine. We even have a service where we help people build authentic content teams, like find the experts. And we seem to get the nichier, people that are looking like, I don't know if I could ever find a power washer expert with a tool shed that's really organized and actually knows power washers and dreams about them. Um,
Right.
and to me, like, who is delivering the content is so important. And I spend a lot of time trying to find niche experts and people that are really obsessed with a topic and a niche. And it starts from there.
Right.
So
So how do you actually go about finding an expert in a certain niche? What's the process like?
oh, it's like the first step is probably the funnest step. And it happens too while you're in the develop. We do a lot of building sites from scratch. So when we're starting in the topic creation and thinking about the silos we want to go into,
Mhm.
we think about the team that needs to present this content from the start. And so my advice to anyone that's building a content team, especially around a niche, is to like live in that world. So like move into that world, and it's so easy, it's a lot easier today to live in, to find, if you're like a retro gaming nerd, like to find those Reddits and those forums and conferences or wherever you need to go to like live in that world of that niche. And usually if you find one bona fide expert that's like really obsessed about the niche, they know other experts. So I feel like you
Right.
just have to find that initial wiggle room and when you
Yeah.
build your
Yeah.
niche. And some
And
niches are
then
harder to like find people than others. If it's a digital type of niche that there's a lot of content around, or it's something that a lot of people are building content in, it's a little bit easier. But if you're doing something like, I would say like homesteading, that might be a little tougher to find a real homesteading expert
right.
um, that lives like that. Maybe they're not online. Maybe they really are just in. And so
Off the
maybe you have to
grid.
think, yeah, maybe they live off the grid and you have to find them. And I kind of like just really just love finding niche experts. And like I said, once you find that one, they have friends, they know people, and they know where to go, where they live. So that's the
Right.
first step for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something really special about like building a content team. And as you said, kind of getting the experts, finding the right people is that, yeah, you could just hire any content marketer to kind of write about anything. And they'll probably do, if they're a pretty decent content marketer, sorry, they'll probably do a pretty good job. But like if you don't have people who actually have passion for it and yeah they dream about their organized tool shed or they're like in the trenches doing whatever then it's hard to get that kind of feeling of authenticity with the content. I definitely agree with
Yeah, and I
that.
think for our sites, the authenticity factor really is really key to our success and to
Mhm.
moving into markets that maybe are tougher. Building a new site from scratch, it takes time to get that authority and it takes time to find your audience. And so I think those little innuendos of people that are a real expert are really obsessed, or people that are just doing the research and are
Mhm.
really great copywriters, makes a difference. Obviously depends on the niche that you're building in, but for us, like we have a lot of nerd culture video gaming sites, and the lingo that they use, the experience that they share, you just can't fake it. You can't fake somebody like you. I couldn't do research on FIFA 23 and tell you all the players and tell you all the things. That's my son's obsession right now. But someone that lives and plays that game and has played FIFA 22, 21, 20, has knows soccer inside and out, has all those things, like there's such a difference. And there's like
Mhm.
little, innuendos and stuff. And I think the reason why brands and people want authenticity so much is that trust factor.
Mhm.
And without experts, without like the right lingo, the trust is completely gone.
Right.
So once you lose trust, it's really hard to get back.
Exactly, exactly. So, like, with that in mind, that you would prefer to kind of have an expert telling you what to do versus just some kind of nameless, faceless, are they actually in the space or not type of person behind the scenes. I know that brands often kind of develop this voice that they use for their social
Mhm.
media, that they use for their content. Do you think that that's kind of on its way out because it's better to have like individual voices, or where are we going with that?
I mean, I think consumers, I think like we're all pretty savvy to marketing these days. Everyone knows when they're being marketed to. We all understand the ins and outs of marketing. It's really funny. Like I used to back in the day, I'd say like a decade ago in my career, I would have to really like explain touch points and marketing and brand voice and that kind of thing. But I feel like nowadays it's just we understand. So I think brands, if they're presenting it from the brand, people kind of get it. But I
Mhm.
do think that they're missing an opportunity. And one of the things that I've seen brands do is and do really well is like, kind of borrow I would, authenticity and trust from an influencer, for
Mhm.
example. And that really works because they're bringing those people in to speak about them. I think people do not want to just hear from the brand. They want to hear from real users of their product. They want to see like products being tested in the real world with people that look just like them, or
Mhm.
people that sound just like them, or know, or experts in their field. And I think brands need to recognize that. And whether they work with them directly, which I think they should, um, I think that yes, we understand that when a brand's talking about their own product on their website, that they're going to sell us on the features. But I think that brands that only like sugarcoat things and that aren't transparent are missing out on a really big opportunity, because that's why even in affiliate we have reviews, we have product testing, because people do not want to come to the brand. They want to come to us to say like, did
Right.
you really like this? And what does it look like? We have like a subscription box site where we actually do, like, we order the subscription boxes and we test them and we try on the clothes and we show you what it looks like on, a real body. And,
Mhm.
did this, like, what was the fabric feel like all of those little innuendos. I think we're doing that. And I think brands need to recognize that people are coming to us and coming to our, team of subscription box testers to test their products. And we will tell you the good, the bad, the not so good. We will tell you if this meal kit is overpriced. And if this is, this didn't come packaged properly, we will tell you all of those ins and outs. And I
Right.
sometimes feel like brands try to sugarcoat and like kind of like whitewash the negatives. And I think that's a bad thing. And I think if brands want to build authentic content, they need to address good, bad, ugly, because that's what your buyers are looking at.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree. It's so much easier to trust a brand if you kind of have this more nuanced picture of, oh, this product is great, but it's a little bit overpriced. But if you want to pay for it, then you can, versus this is perfect, like zero changes, five
It's
stars.
funny because, like, I think this is such old school thinking, and I had met with a client just this month, and, one of the types of content that we recommended having on his e-commerce site was comparisons to
Mhm.
other products, and he's like, "Why would I compare myself to a competitor that could be better?" I mean, like, I said that your customers are comparing you to other products already, and that's, like, obviously comparison is a really great, commercial intent keyword
Right.
as well, because people are like, I'm searching between product A, I'm searching between product B, tell me what I should buy. So for me, that's like a no-brainer. But for brands, they're like, they want to be so protective of their, and I've said this to so many, I've talked about this many, many times with brands that are, putting content out, and they're like, should I talk about the pros and the cons of both? And I'm like, be really authentic. If your competitor does something better, don't be afraid to put that out there. Like,
Totally.
that to me builds trust, and that's what I wanna know. And there's a lot of great brands out there that get that, that are doing
Mhm.
that now, but there's still some old school mentality where you have to break it down.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's always so interesting when brands kind of act like they are the end all be all of whatever their vertical is. Like, oh, this is the meal kit. It's perfect,
Yeah.
and you don't even have to look at the other ones because this one is the best.
Yeah.
It's so weird because obviously you can have a really great product, you can have a really great whatever, and there's gonna be someone who maybe likes something else better. And
Yeah, and you're just like, I mean, think about it. You're just out of touch of what who your customers are and who your real
Mhm.
people are too. And I think authenticity for me also means like not being everything to everyone and just,
Right.
really digging into who you want to be as a brand and, your special sauce. And that's
Right.
okay, and I think that there's so many companies out there that are doing that really well.
Mhm.
But like I said, yeah, there's still some old school mentality because we work with brands as well. I mean, we create a lot of content and we'll work with brands to like advertise in the content and sometimes they'll ask for some revisions that we just don't do. Because I'm like, this is the real experience that they had with your product.
Right.
And we editorial and monetization is two separate parts of the company for a reason. Like I'm an editorial person through and through. It's funny because like obviously content marketing is marketing, but
Mhm.
editorial for me is really, really important. And we spend a lot of time finding experts, real people that are actually doing the things and testing. If it's like an RV, they live in RVs, they, spend their summers in an RV or and RV parks, like they know this world inside and out. So even if it's not something that maybe makes your brand not look as good, I feel like it's still better. So,
Right. Yeah, I think that's a huge thing, especially if you're talking about reviews. I know that like a lot of sites that offer reviews have been kind of cracking down and a lot of people have been seeing their reviews removed or like their accounts
mm,
suspended because of they had fake reviews up there. And obviously if you have fake reviews, you usually know you have fake reviews. But I think
mhm.
people are surprised that not only like the filters, but just consumers who are looking at reviews can usually tell if a review is from someone who actually used the product versus is
Oh,
this paid
yeah, and I
for?
think
Is
that
this yeah.
I mean, I think too, it's like, I mean, if I'm gonna buy, like, a dress on Amazon and I'm looking for this, particular dress, I wanna see, like, I don't wanna hear from the dressmaker that's like, "This is the best dress like, obviously, I know it's a copywriter, I know. I wanna see somebody, preferably in many sizes and many, forms and say, like, "What does this dress look like? How does it wear? How does it wash? How does it" like, that's what we demand now, and I think Google has really pushed forward with that, with the authentic reviews, with their helpful content update. It's not over yet. I still feel
Mhm.
like there's a lot of review sites. There's a lot of content sites that are still in the rankings without authentic reviews. But I think we're starting to see it. Like we're starting to see um, a lot. Like there's been a lot of people that took shortcuts they're just being decimated in Google.
Mhm.
So it's not only what consumers want, it's what like Google demands. And it's a good time to be in content. If you're
Right.
building authentic content, it's
Yeah,
exciting.
what is like what are some brands that you feel like you as a consumer have seen and you're like, "Oh, this is really great authentic content. Like this is what a brand should do."
For as far as a consumer goes, for brands, um, oh, that's a good question. Trying to think. Uh, like my son's a really big gamer, and I think he loves Fortnite. He loves
Mhm.
video games, and I think that like the PlayStation stuff, I think they really found a way to like sneak in. I mean, like that's really a great um they have found a way to bring it like, they have these amazing marketing campaigns in the game now, so they have these events in the game. I think stuff like that's really
Oh, it's so smart.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really smart, it's really clever. Um, I'd say companies like there's a lot of digital tool companies that I really like, um, I would say like Monday.com does great content.
Right.
They understand they understand how to build content. They're like the masters of it. I would say another um tool that we use a lot that I think is really all about building authentic content, which is ironic. It's an AI tool is Market Muse. We love Market Muse. They put out like the real deal of things. I think they've spent a lot of time. So like on my current content marketing side of things, like that's the people that I really am drawn to. Um, and then I would say like, yeah, I would say I'm not as brand centric as some people, like where it's like,
Right.
when I for my clothing or for my for that kind of thing. Yeah. I'm not as brand centric, but
Right. Right. Yeah, I'd love to hear about like the process when you're working with brands to kind of like develop the messaging and be truthful and kind of help the brands see the signals and kind of understand what it really means to have a good voice and have great authentic content too.
yeah. So when we work with brands for our company, for our content website, it's like I said, the editorial is the editorial. So we hire experts. Um, for example, we have like a wedding and jewelry site. Like we hire people that are jewelry makers, jewelry designers, wedding planners, that kind of thing. And like this is and they're real life people, like their moms,
Hmm.
and we create the content. We have a content strategy, we have a content plan, but we create the content, and that the brand works with us in that capacity. It's like we find the traffic, we write the content from our perspective. So it's and there is some back and forth. What we do tell brands though, if there's any kind of inaccuracies, if our research has found like um your trust pilot signal is 4.6 out of 5 and it's really a 4.8, yet tell me it's a 4.8. We will change those things, but we won't change opinions, we won't change personality, we won't change real, like when we really are doing product testing, we won't change our opinions. So like for example, we have another health site and one of our health writers did testing for a protein product and they didn't like the taste. And they there was no way around it. They did not like the taste. And obviously taste is an opinion. And even with protein powders, like I could love a protein powder and my husband could be like, I don't like that protein powder. But this is coming from, because we're presenting this content from that expert, from that writer. If she doesn't like the taste, she doesn't like the taste. So I was like,
Yeah.
keep that in there. Say, I don't like this taste. I prefer, this flavor or whatever. And sometimes brands just, they don't like that. They don't like that. Like you don't talk about that. But before we even work with a brand, we're like, this is how we present it. And it does help you. Like you still get, buys, and we obviously work with good products that we like. We only approach brands that our readers already like, are already shopping, are already using.
Right.
And so it's a pretty easy fit, but sometimes there's back and forth. That's how we
Got
work
it.
with brands. But yeah, we don't try to assume the brand voice.
Hmm.
I've even had brands send over like pre-written things that they want in the content, and I don't put it in our content because one, it's duplicate. It's like it's the
Hmm.
same content you have on all of, like you look at all of the, like they have sponsored posts and it's the same verbiage. They have their site, it's the same verbiage. It's not original, it's not fresh, and it's not delivered from us. So
Yeah.
if brands are going to work with us, then they need to work with our, like it comes from a place of trust. We build trust with our audience. We have that already. We actually are testing your product and testing. That's where it comes from. So I don't instruct a writer to be like, speak like the brand. And in fact,
That's
I
so,
will
yeah, that's
take that
crazy.
out of the editorial. Like I will literally take those kind of like, and then in article ad, fine. We can have, a little bit of, I think to me, that's consumers understand you still have to pay the bills and we're trying
Right.
to sell this product. But in the actual article itself, we try to be as genuine as we can.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always so funny to me how brands painstakingly come up with this messaging and like which verb should we use? Like what phrase should we use? And then at the end of the day, it's like you can have a recognizable brand voice and a recognizable phrase and a description, but like what really trumps that is like the social proof of people actually using your product or using your platform and what they're saying about it. Like whatever the slogan that you come up with, people aren't just going to mindlessly repeat that. They're
And
going to
we're
say
seeing
what
that
they
so much
think.
now. I have so many friends in like the e-com space, and there's people that are just crushing it because they're on TikTok or they're on Instagram and they're doing video and they're just sharing like real experience. So they're finding people that are like, I'm going to, use this purse and see what it's like or whatever. And
Right.
there's brands that are crushing it like that. And yeah, I've been in those rooms too. I've been in those strategy meetings where it's like, let's come up with 3 words to describe our brand. And I think that like branding and brand, it's so much more than that. And I know that there's people that get paid a lot of money to think of brand voice, and it becomes very important, and it is something to really consider. But nowadays, the way content's created, what we're used to, the speed of content creation
Mhm.
and video, things are shifting. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah. Yeah, you can't really have the time to, analyze, is this like going along with our brand voice? Is this perfect? And I think that's kind of refreshing. I've definitely seen, it's funny you brought up on TikTok. I've seen on TikTok a lot of brands have TikToks, and the ones that seem to succeed are the ones that just kind of let their whoever is managing their account just kind of run with it. Like it's not
yeah.
something that's going to be approved by corporate. It's just them making these fun videos, which is what the platform is for. And I feel like when companies get too stiff about stuff and not just like letting the whatever the content might
Well,
be flow, it just turns into
oh,
really
yeah, TikTok's a
obviously
great
like
example because I mean, there's so many people out there and they're TikToking their little hearts out all the live long day, and they're creating content. And video is the same thing. Like, you look at people like Mr. Beast, who does, like, an entire marketing campaign video shoot thing, like, a day. Like,
Mhm.
this takes I mean, corporations and like, bigger corporations, bigger brands, that would take them 6 months, and there
Yeah.
would be, like, levels of, the workflow would be insane, and there'd be approval process and that. And yet there's so many creators out there right now that are just pumping out content every single day, and they're not as worried about voice and tone, and they're just getting out there and putting out content. And so, like, there's obviously 2 extremes to that. But yeah, I think about those content creators all the time. I'm like, you're right. When you watch TikTok and um the algorithm is so personalized and you are in that space, like, it's an ongoing thing, and people are really drawn to that. People are really drawn
Mhm.
to that. We have tons of content out there. But
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah.
just, like, on the authenticity point, like, it's so just by the nature of it, it's so authentic, like, especially, like, during the beginning of COVID-19, people were
Yeah.
just, like, in their rooms, and it's totally, like, not the type of thing people would usually present, like, "Oh, like, here's me in my, like, messy office work day or, like,
I
school
love it.
day."
I love COVID for bringing us into people's homes way more. And I mean, obviously, video platforms, we have better ways to capture video now, better ways to capture authentic images. And even we tell our writers, like, if you don't have an image, did it really exist? Did it really happen?
Mhm.
And when I was growing up, we used to have, like, you'd take a camera and film and you'd have to, like, wait for weeks to get this process. And nowadays it's like every single thing in our life is recorded. Like,
Mhm.
every single part of our day. And with COVID, like, even in business, um, people are, like, in their homes, in their bedrooms. I've seen podcasts where, like, really engaging, smart podcasts, and you're like, these 2 interviews are in people's apartments, and you can see their cats and their dogs behind them and their homes. And I think COVID just kind of forced that out, but I think that was something that was probably meant to happen anyways,
Mhm.
because people just do want authenticity. Like I said in the beginning, in our beginning talk, was like, who brings you the content, who presents the content really does matter. And so,
Right.
like, bringing people into an, intimate setting, and, being showcasing their lives in many ways, I think that's what audiences expect today. Like, it's so different than how I grew up. Like, you would never, as a brand, you would, like, there was, like, dress codes, and you would never ever see an interview in someone's bedroom, or someone's,
Right.
like, their pets going around and the kids going around. But I really, like, for me, that means that I will die on this hill. That type of content that's really authentic and really genuine will do way better than a polished piece of work that took that went through layers and layers and layers of approvals.
Right.
um for sure. And I will die on that hill. I think that's what
Right.
people want, and that's the kind of content I like consuming as well. So
I agree with that too. Yeah, I The more polished content has its time and place, but it's like there's plenty of that to go around. So it's nice if you're gonna watch someone for their experience, like you want it to be their experience, not just some snapshot that
Oh yeah,
was
when we this
edited
year
and
we
approved.
oh, for sure. And I think it makes budgeting a lot easier as well. Like this year, we started doing a lot more video and we pulled in our writers, which is a funny kind of thing because, right, like writers are usually introverted. They don't really want to go on camera. But our writers are people that are actually in the thing, doing the thing. So I was like, just put a camera in front of your face. And they were like, what
Mhm.
about shots and this and that? I'm like, I will take authentic video. I would rather have you, you know, be getting in your garden and showing us how to plant tomatoes and really showcasing it than just like, a polished video about how to grow tomatoes. And that's for our company, that's something that we really this year we dedicated to another year to EAT
Mhm.
to the Google. But for us, it really means like building authentic content. And we put a stake in it, in a big way. Like, and I think more than what the big media companies are doing, I think a lot of the bigger companies, knowing what Google's, looking for, are trying to replicate that expertise and that authenticity. They might be testing products in a lab, or they might be testing products, in the driveway of their headquarters. But we really are like, people that are testing garden hoses are using the garden hoses in their house. The people that are growing tomato plants are actually growing them in their real climate. And, you
So
know,
cool.
yeah, like we really want that level, and we're not 100% there yet. But that's what we strive for when
That's
it comes
awesome.
to building. Because really, if you are out there consuming any kind of content, there's people out there that are doing it.
Yeah.
So I think about like you said, like the TikTokers, the influencers, the people that are starting their own niche blog just because they're like super, super passionate about gardening or canning or forestry or whatever. And they're just like, I really love this and I'm going to talk about it. That's who I look to for inspiration when it
Mhm.
comes to content creation.
Thank you so much for coming on the Signcast. It was so much fun talking to you about all things content, all things authenticity. Um,
Thanks.
yeah,
This
this
is
has
so
been
much fun,
incredible.
and reach out anytime. Like, I love nerding out about this. Like, this is my thing to nerd out about.
Yeah.
So it really is fun for me. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see everybody next time on the Signcast.